What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Open Great League with some of the new Shadow Pokemon that absolutely nobody else is going to be brave enough to use, with Shadow Rapidash, which was sort of accidentally released for a very short period during the previous Team Rocket Takeover event. That's now available to catch once again, as well as Shadow Fracture, and then the Pokemon that I can assure you nobody else is going to showcase on YouTube, Shadow Noivern. Now, this Pokemon doesn't even break the top 1000 rankings on PvPoke for the Open Great League, and once you see it in action, in any even shield neutral matchups, you're going to understand why. This Pokemon just does not beat anything, and yet I was still able to pull off some of my craziest wins of the season with this trio. So with that being said, let's just get straight into the question of the day. Which Shadow Pokemon that hadn't been in rotation for a while are you most happy to see return during this Team Rocket Takeover event? There's been quite a shake-up to the Rocket lineups, so let me know in the comment section down below what is your favorite returning Shadow Pokemon, let me know why, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, leading Shadow Rapidash into Fearow. This is going to be a neutral matchup here. Wild Mount Incinerates are going to deal huge damage, but of course Drill Run is going to be double resisted. However, by the time I reach back-to-back Drill Runs, honestly Drill Run probably will get the knockout. The opponent's actually going to swap out though, grabbing a shield advantage, swapping into Licky Licky, and actually shielding a Drill Run there. Now, I was hoping to chip and dip, but the opponent going to use their shield. I'm going to use my final shield, and they full send the Shadow Ball, which honestly is probably a little bit overkill up against a Shadow Fracture. Body Slam likely puts me into roll-up farm down range, whereas now, because they full send the Shadow Ball, I can reach back-to-back charge moves, go for the Aqua Tail first, then settle for a Night Slash, where Night Slash is going to do marginally less damage, but also does have a chance to boost up my attack. We come in with the Noivern, looking for the farm down, but just barely missing out, and the opponent able to reach a last-second Body Slam, which already gets me into the yellow health range. The opponent's final Pokemon is going to be a Quagsire, and they're not going to farm up to a potential Stone Edge. This is just the Aqua Tail, but resisted damage, it still does huge damage. I expect the opponent to try and snipe me there, which means we come in with the Rapidash, we fire off the Drill Run on CMP, and we go for the slight undercharge. I still need to live one peck's worth of damage, and Noivern hanging on with 1 HP and a dream. It's my turn to survive with 1 HP, and Draco Meteor gets the one-shot up against the Quagsire, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there. Into the next battle, going to see Pangoro in the lead. So this is going to be another neutral matchup here. The opponent will be able to outpace me though pretty comfortably. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to throw on good timing if they go for the Night Slash there. So I actually swap out into my Noivern, and we're baiting out a Tinkaton, which is pretty good for me because Fracture doesn't have much play here. But Heat Wave does substantial damage, and the opponent, they are going to overfarm. But if they full send the Gigaton Hammer, they're not going to reach a Bulldoze into my Rapidash, which means we come in, we get the full farm down, and we already have back-to-back Drill Runs. I'm going to wait to see what comes in here. The opponent, thinking about it, they're going to come in with a Grumpig, and I'm going for the Flame Charge. This is going to boost up my attack stat. Otherwise, I don't think Drill Run is going to necessarily get the knockout here, whereas now, Drill Run is going to grab the final shield. I'm then going to swap into my Fracture. I'm looking to bait the Pangoro back out, but the opponent going to stay in and throw just before we reach the move. I expect them to try and snipe with the Pangoro, which means we go for the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail gets the knockout there. They come back in with the Grumpig, and they will just barely outpace me here. I mean, they do overfarm a little bit, but Dynamic Punch gets the knockout, but Shadow Rapidash able to reach a Drill Run. Drill Run is, of course, going to get the knockout from this range, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there. Into the next battle, going to see a Shadow Sableye in the lead. Once again, this is going to be a matchup where we do end up pacing the same. However, and looking to throw on good timing, the opponent is always going to have the opportunity to throw the first charge move. They also fire off a Drain Punch there. I'm actually going to swap out. I was hoping to catch a Drain Punch, but of course the opponent, they're never going to throw on poor timing up against an Incinerate user, which means unfortunately, we end up catching a foul play there. And of course, they're also going to come in with a Licky Licky and go for a full farm down. Now, we do end up grabbing a shield. We've got back-to-back Drill Runs already. However, unfortunately, whilst we do have 2 charge moves here, this is a Shadow Rapidash. 2 Drill Runs actually narrowly won't quite get the knockout. So we go for a second Drill Run. Drill Run number 2 gets them low. We swap out there. I wasn't trying to catch a charge move. I was trying to snipe with a Dragon Tail, but it backfires as we actually did not get the Dragon Tail through at all. We do get the farm down, but basically, there's just nothing we can beat with such a low HP Fracture in the back, and the opponent going to come in here. We fire off the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail does decent damage, and actually, this probably is one of the best matchups we could have seen for a Fracture at such low HP, but even resisted Thunder Shocks should be able to fast speed farm me down. I tried to reach a last second charge brief or just something on the Rapidash, doesn't work out, and as a result, we lose that game. But GG's to opponent there. Into next battle, we're going to see a Tinkaton in the lead. The opponent's going to be safe swapping into Licky Licky. And once again, we don't have a great response, so I'm going to chip with the draw run and then come in with my Fracture. The opponent over farms, allowing me to reach a Night Slash here. Night Slash, going to grab a shield advantage. And honestly, that's probably the best we can get out of this matchup. If I want to maintain alignment here, I'm probably going to have to double shield. Maybe not actually, but either way, I'm pretty happy with the situation we're in. Body Sam gets the knockout. Noivern, once again, not able to get that full farm down though, which is really frustrating for me, but of course we do have access to Heat Wave. I'm going to swap into Rapidash. Their final Pokemon going to be a Shadow for Alligator. Now we don't have access to Wild Charge, but it doesn't really matter. Drill Run still does huge damage. We get the full Incinerate farm down, and the opponent realizing their Fairy Winds just aren't going to add up enough to farm me down, and so they just concede the match. So, GG's to opponent there. Into next battle, going to see another Fearow in the lead. So once again, the opponent should be farming up to 7 and then throwing just before I can throw a charge move of my own. They fire off the Drill Run, and this time around, they're going to swap into a Malamar. I'm going to fire off a Drill Run here. Drill Run is going to hit for decent damage, so the opponent is going to use a shield, but we've already got back-to-back. Drill Run number 2, also shielded, and so I come in with my Fracture. Fracture is going to, of course, have to shield in return. The opponent fires off the foul play. I'm now going to look to overfarm, throw an Aqua Tail on CMP, and I'm really hoping this gets the knockout. It's going to be close, but it barely doesn't. And again, the opponent's just living on 1 HP and a dream almost every single time it feels like at the moment. But we're going to come in with the Noivern, but we're not in the best position. Noivern, when all shields are down, is pretty much helpless because it just takes us an absolute eternity to reach the charge move there. We tried to catch a move, doesn't work out, and as a result, they've got the Stone Edge loaded. Stone Edge gets the knockout, and unfortunately, I lose that game. But GG's opponent there. Into next battle, I'm going to see a Shadow Kanto Ninetales in the lead. So actually, my entire team has decent play here. I'm going to resist everything they can possibly throw, assuming they're on Weather Ball and, of course, Energy Ball. I'm going to look to overfarm here, fire off the Drill Run on good timing, and Drill Run should be grabbing a shield. It's going to grab the shield, and now I swap into my Noivern. The opponent going to bank a ton of energy before coming in with a Licky Licky, and unfortunately, they do throw just before we reach a potential Draco Meteor. I'm going to shield the Shadow Ball. I'm now going to look to overfarm here and then full send. Draco Meteor, can we connect here? Draco Meteor gets the KO there, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. Of course, I've just debuffed my attack stat. They're going to come in with the Ninetales. I'm going to swap out, and I'm able to make a catch there, catching the charge brief onto Rapidash, where Weather Ball is resisted, but it ends up getting the KO anyways. And now I'm going to wait out my switch clock. Going to come in with the Fracture, and of course, I can no-shield one charge brief. However, if they've got back-to-back already, unfortunately, the second charge move will get the knockout. So at this point, we're going to shield here. We're going to wait to see what they have in the back, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Jellicent. So we've got back-to-back Night Slashes here. First one is going to connect, and now I'm actually going to swap back into Noivern, go for one Air Slash, and then fire off a Heat Wave on CMP. Of course, they've already seen the Draco Meteor, so the opponent puts up a Protect Shield, their final shield. They go for the Surf, but they go for a really clever Undercharge, which allows them to come out with another Surf loaded. But in the end, it doesn't matter because Fracture comfortably wins CMP. Night Slash gets the KO. We also get the unnecessary boost. I believe that is the only boost I got with Night Slash on Fracture in these games. So really unfortunate. That seems like it's always the way that it goes. You always get the boost at the very end of the game where it literally means nothing. But anyways, into next battle, we're going to see another Shadow Kanto Ninetales in the lead. And this time they are over farming massively here, allowing me to reach back-to-back drill runs, grabbing both shields. And now I'm going to swap into my Noivern. Now, the opponent actually goes for an Energy Ball there. I don't understand that play. I think maybe they were trying to throw an Energy Ball into my Rapidash. However, not very good as it is, of course, double resisted by the Noivern. And here, I'm actually just going to fully sacrifice this Pokemon. We realize it's not the best Pokemon ever, and they probably would still reach another Weather Ball into us if we try to commit to a full farm down. So here, they're going to come in with a Sableye. I don't throw on the best timing, but I want to throw before they can potentially go for a Drain Punch and boost up their defense. I was hoping by throwing straight away, I could put them into Dragon Tail farm down range. However, unfortunately, that does not look to be the case. So I swap into Rapidash, but unfortunately, not getting a 0-turn swap. They're able to reach a last-second foul play. Now, the opponent is waiting out their switch clock, and they're thinking about what to do. They come in with a Shadow Annihilate, and here I make a bit of a mistake here as I go for a Flame Charge. Of course, the opponent ends up catching that onto Ninetales. However, I guess it doesn't really matter because we banked a move on the Fracture, and once again, comfortably winning CMP. Aquatail gonna get the knockout, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG to open there. Into next battle, I can see a Shadow Alolan Sanistash in the lead. Honestly, one of the best things you could possibly see with an Incinerate user. However, they're going to safe swap into a Sea King, where I don't really have a response at all. They've got access to Icy Wind and Joron, both of which are going to hit my entire team for super effective damage. And up against the Noivern, of course, Icy Wind, double super effective, that would very comfortably get the one-shot. Now, unfortunately, because they've debuffed my attack stat here, Night Slash is not going to get the knockout. And what I can't really afford to do is go all shields down, because if I do that, then unfortunately, they can probably one-shot my Rapidash with a Drill Run. So here, I probably should have come in with the Noivern, but I guess I don't think it really matters in the end, because they've got a Goodra in the back. Goodra gonna core break the remainder of my team. I tried to swap into Noivern, hoping to desperately reach a Heat Wave, but we're not able to do so. And the opponent, I believe they've already got back-to-back Drill Runs here. They're gonna fire off the first one, grab the final shield, and they already have the second one loaded. Drill Run number 2, of course, gonna get the KO there. And unfortunately, I lose that game. So, GG to open there. Into next battle, I'm going to see a Noivern Stunfisk in the lead. So, actually not that bad of a matchup for me because we've got access to Drill Run, and because we're a Shadow, the Incinerate damage is going to add up over time to the point where when we reach back-to-back Drill Runs, this honestly probably gets the knockout. So we grab the first shield there. We are going to throw the second Drill Run straight away. Drill Run number 2, gonna be shielded, and now I swap into my Noivern. Typically, if I'm able to grab both shields with the Rapidash, I would swap out straight away into Noivern because it is a little bit useless, but with a shield advantage, potentially it could nuke something with a Draco Meteor. In this case, it makes a lot more sense to go for the Heat Wave, where it's super effective damage, and the opponent, if they don't full send a payback, I should just narrowly live an Air Cutter and reach a second Heat Wave. So the opponent trying to go for the farm down, they're not able to do so. Heat Wave number 2 going to get the KO. I'm then going to swap out straight away into my Fracture. We still got a shield advantage. However, once again, we are seeing the core breaker in the form of Sea King, and the opponent will be able to go for an Icy Wind and debuff my attack stat. I'm actually happy to just let this move go through. Icy Wind gets the knockout. I realize Rapidash does still have the tools to win this game, but it is going to be very close. I believe the Stunfisk is possibly one away from a charge move. I expect them to swap out straight away, so I swap into Noivern just to make sure there. Gives me time to react, which means I can go for Drill Run. Drill Run gets the knockout, and now I can just Incinerate farm down the Sea King. It's resisted damage, but it gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG to open there. Into next battle, I'm going to see a shiny Shadow Kanto Marowak in the lead. Not great for me, and even worse for me, we come in with the Fracture, and we're met with a Dugong. I'm going to go for Night Slash. Night Slash, unfortunately, as I mentioned already, we don't get any boost with Night Slash aside from the one that we got at the end of a game, but Night Slash is going to get them very low. Now, of course, Drill Run did get buffed this season, but it does do slightly less damage, which means if they end up going for Drill Run, I should narrowly hang on. So I'm going to no-shield this, but the opponent goes for the snipe with their Shadow Kanto Marowak, and unfortunately, unless they've got like a Chestnut in the back, I can't see a world where we end up winning this game, but we're going to play this out anyways. Let's see what we can do. I'm going to fire off a Heat Wave on the CMP tire with the next Rock Side. Heat Wave from this range, gonna get the KO, but their final Pokemon is a Bastiodon. You hate to see it, so we're just going to concede the match, and we end up losing that game. But into the next battle, we're going to see a Cast Form in the lead here. So, of course, not the best matchup for me as they are super spammy, and a Rock Weather Ball will pretty much get the one-shot as we do have a Shadow Rapidash. But we're going to fire off the Flame Charge. I'm expecting to grab a shield here. The opponent does not shield. We tried to snipe with a Fracture, and again, we just don't get that swap out in time, so we don't get the snipe. We have to tank a Rock Weather Ball, and even worse, they're now going to hard punish with a Tinkaton. We can reach a single Aquatail, however, unfortunately, they can just go for a full fast move farm down, and Rapidash is getting close to range where a Bulldoze will get the knockout. So we're going to come in with the Shadow Rapidash. I probably have to shield here. I mean, I don't really know what else I can do, but they full send a Gigaton Hammer for some reason. But their final Pokemon, going to be a Sableye, and unfortunately, all shields are down. There is just nothing that Noivern can do, unless randomly they go for a Drain Punch here, but the opponent goes for Foul Play. We're actually not even going to reach a Heat Wave, and so I just concede the match. But GG to open there. Into the next battle, I'm going to see a Clodsire in the lead. The opponent's going to be safe swapping into Lumineon, and actually, I think I already know what this team is going to be. I was actually just watching a Dan Ottawa video in the background whilst doing these battles, and this was a video that he showcased submitted by a subscriber. I don't know if this is actually that same trainer, but the final Pokemon for that team was a Swanna, I believe. So running double Gust, double Water backline with Clodsire in the lead. Here we're going to go for a Heat Wave. Unfortunately, still not going to reach a Draco Meteor, and Heat Wave is going to get them very low, but unfortunately they do have energy, so I believe they have the Octel already loaded. The opponent is going to swap out into the Shadow Swanna, and here we come in with the Fracture. I'm able to reach a Night Slash. Night Slash is going to deal big damage. It probably gets the KO there. We end up getting the attack boost. Okay, so never mind. I guess I lied to you guys. We do get a boost in this matchup. It doesn't make a difference because Night Slash still would have got the knockout anyways. But here they're going to come in with their final Pokemon, which is going to be the Clodsire. Actually, never mind. They do still have a Lumineon with, I believe, an Octel loaded. So we've got to be careful of that. But we should just be able to Incinerate farm them all the way down here. To the opponent, they might look to try and make a catch, but actually they just transfer the damage onto Lumineon, which means we come out with the energy, and so I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. I see another Shadow Kanto Ninetales in the lead, and again, they are actually going to allow me to reach a Drill Run first. So, we fire off the Drill Run going to be shielded, and now the opponent is going to reach a Charge Move of their own. I resist everything here, assuming they're unweatherable and eligible. However, that gets me incredibly low. But we go for Drill Run number 2. We grab both shields. And again, because we've got all shields down, I'm going to swap out into my Shadow Noivern. The opponent fires off the energy ball again. I don't understand. Like, what do they think this Pokemon is? Either way, they're going to come in with a Noivern Stunfisk. And at this point, I know I should live a discharge here. And by no shielding, potentially, we force the opponent to try and go for a full farm down. But of course, we reach a Draco Meteor. And that gets the one shot. And their final Pokemon is going to be a Medicham. So this game is still not over just yet. Unfortunately, even though we've got a Fracture, we still got 2 shields. Medicham super spammy, and of course, they should be on Ice Punch for coverage here, which means I'm gonna have to shield absolutely everything. Also, that Ninetales does still have quite a lot of energy here. At this point, I expect they probably should be swapping back into Ninetales, so potentially I should have had that Octel ready to throw, wait for the potential swap there. Now, unfortunately, I swap into Rapidash. I was hoping to get off 2 Incinerates there, or maybe just force some energy from them, in which case I'd then be able to go for a full farm down, whereas now I'm forced to throw the Night Slash, and we're so low here. We are still 1 Dragon Tail away from back-to-back charge moves. Octel gonna connect, but we don't get damage registration error as I'm not playing on the new code, and as a result, we end up going down to the Psycho Cut damage, and we lose that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle. I can see a Wigglytuff in the lead, so that is a great lead matchup for me. I'm going to be swapping into my Noivern. I can shield once and then commit to a full Air Slash farm down. One of basically the only matchups where Air Slash actually looks like a decent fast move there, as we are dealing a lot of fast move pressure. I overfarm as much as possible. The opponent ends up using a shield there, of course. Noivern does have access to some nuke charge moves like Boom Burst. The opponent shields there, respecting the damage, and their final Pokemon is going to be once again a Noivern Stunfisk. So at this point, we can fire off the Drill Run. Drill Run grabs the final shield, and now Shadow Fracture, super glassy, but I should be able to live a Mud Bomb, and they're never going to be able to go for a Thundershock farm down either. So at this point, we're going to fire off the Aquatail. However, Aquatail, whilst it is super effective damage, it doesn't quite put them into range where I can farm them down. Now here, I believe they overfarm by a single Thundershock, but they do full send the Mud Bomb there, which I think is a mistake. They then swap back into Wigglytuff, but this is fine with me because now we can fire off the Drill Run. We overfarm by a single Incinerate, which means I outpace them to the next charge attack. Drill Run number 2, of course, on like 3 HP there, takes out the Noivern Stunfisk, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into, I believe, the final battle of this video, leading into a Mantine. So, of course, that is not a great matchup for me. And unfortunately, they are also very likely going to be on Twister for coverage this season, which is going to hit my backline for super effective damage. And because these Shadow Pokemon are super glassy, Mantine basically has the ability to one-shot my entire team. They also no-shield a Night Slash. They can actually technically no-shield a second Night Slash here, and they're still able to reach a last-second Twister. That is devastating for me. However, we have at least put them into range where I can finally get the KO. Honestly, I prefer this to them actually shielding there. So we are now going to see a Noivern Stunfisk coming in. And again, we can go for Draw Run here. Great coverage. And they actually end up no shielding. So this is going to be a pretty awkward farm down, but I will try and go for a full resisted Air Slash farm down into the Stunfisk. They've still got 2 shields here, but let's see what we can do. They go for a second discharge. Noivern barely getting the full farm down. I expect them to come in with the Mantine, but no, they actually come in with more Pekko, which is going to force them to use their first shield. Now, of course, we've got a lot of fast move pressure. We come in with the Rapidash, and the opponent, they are going to throw on awful timing. I don't understand that at all. And now I recognize if I go for a Flame Charge here with a boosted Incinerate, maybe just one more fast move will get the knockout. The opponent trying to reach the charge move, but because we boost up our attack stat, we get the farm down, and the opponent just concedes the match. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.